At exhibitions like this, thousands of airgun users come to exchange news, views and criticisms with the manufacturers that supply them and the magazines that cater for their sport. This exchange of information is vital to keep the progress of modern airgun shooting rolling uphill. The range of products on offer to the airgunning public now cater for every conceivable branch of airgun sport, from low-budget informal target rifles to the high-tech superguns currently used to breathtaking effect on the field target circuits of the world. The air rifleman with a desire to shoot paper targets has always been well looked after by a sporting foundation which reaches the dizzy heights of Olympic competition. The informal airgunner, on the other hand, has received little in terms of acceptance or acknowledgement from the general public and serious air weapon enthusiasts alike. Apart from isolated incidents of moronic vandalism, the ranks of the informal airgunner have done little to deserve their lowly reputation, and it is the purpose of this video to provide the thousands of informalists with a means of elevating their abilities to a higher plane. Only then can we explore the new air rifle technology to its limits, thereby making the most of the equipment we have purchased. Unlike the competition airgunner, pure enjoyment of shooting is in no danger from the curse of failure. The goal here is simply pleasure through association. This video will deal with the process of buying, shooting and maintaining an air rifle. What I'm trying to teach here requires every minute the producers have allowed me, and by the end of it I expect you to be able to fully realise the potential of your sport. So what is the purpose of an air rifle? Quite simply, it is a vehicle of accuracy. In the right hands, a quality air rifle can hold its own against any shooting system in the world. The modest power levels produced will allow the air rifle enthusiast to practice his sport at venues totally unsuitable for live ammunition weapons. Legislation restrictions are far less severe on the air rifle user, and the noise created will always present his sport in a far quieter manner. These advantages are available from the minute you buy your first air rifle. What is needed now is a means by which the air rifleman can become as accurate as his chosen gun. No excuses is what it says, and that's what I will provide for you. My methods work. They were formed from years of trial and plenty of error. Stick with the instruction I provide and you won't need excuses. You want an air rifle, obviously, but what type of air rifle? And what are you going to do with it? Taking the what rifle section first, let's examine the deciding factors. First one, I'm afraid, is going to be money. Now remember, you get what you pay for. This is quite a complicated piece of machinery, and all sorts of things go on when you pull the trigger. So if you want it to work properly, it's got to be made right, and that's going to cost you money. Now, I don't want to frighten anyone to death here, but I would strongly advise you to buy the best equipment you can possibly afford. Now, after you've collected the money, which enables you to do that, the next thing to collect is knowledge. Now, here's a good place to collect knowledge. You can look inside here. There are adverts in here, there are reviews, there are places to get in contact with clubs, all sorts of things to help you on your way. But before you do that, and during the process of collecting knowledge, just remember, don't be afraid to ask anybody. If people seem unwilling to give you help in a shop or a manufacturer, take your business away from them. Don't worry about it. You really must collect as much knowledge as you can before you start spending money. The next thing to consider is physical size. If you, or the person you're buying the rifle for, is less than 5 feet tall, don't make the mistake of buying a full-size adult air rifle weighing 10 pounds. This statement may seem a bit obvious, but I've seen dozens of young adults and juniors struggling along with unmanageable pieces of wood and steel. Buy a rifle you can handle. If you need to upgrade, we can always have the thing altered. For now, what you are looking for is a safe, reliable air rifle you can perform effectively with, preferably obtained from a decent manufacturer with after-sales service. But what do you do if you're offered a bargain second-hand rifle? Let's look at that situation in detail. Don't imagine that buying second-hand automatically means second best. Also remember that because a rifle may be cheap, it doesn't make it a bargain. Now, I've got rifles in my collection that have functioned perfectly for over a decade, but I'm an enthusiast, and my guns receive fair treatment, unlike some of the ones you'll be offered as second-hand bargains. What you really need is a Spot the Pig guide. Here's what you do. Have a look at the rifle and note the make and model number. Then go back to the magazine and compare the price to the lowest asking price advertised in the magazine. If the difference is only a few pounds, then go no further. If you want the rifle, buy a new one. Remember that when you buy second hand, most times you'll be giving up the right for after-sales service. So for the sake of peace of mind and a £10 note, buy a new gun. If the rifle you're looking at still looks like a bargain, then move on to stage 2. Start with an overall inspection. Look at the rifle to see that it hasn't been knocked about in an obvious sort of way, no lumps out the stock or huge cracks in it anywhere. Then go in a bit closer and look at the retaining screws. Look to see if the slots are nice and firm and haven't been cut around with a screwdriver. If the chap who's owned it before you can't handle a screwdriver, then he has no business at all inside an airgun. Just reject it immediately if you see any evidence like that. The next thing to look for is mechanical malfunction. And the way to do that is to get the seller to cop the gun for you. Now if you hear anything awful, like mechanical graunching, such as that, or any sort of malfunction at all, just walk away. Air guns are perfectly safe when used responsibly. In the hands of the ignorant, they can be hazardous. So play it safe. Get someone who really knows air guns to help you make your choice. Above all, don't be rushed into buying something you may regret later. There are lots of things you can do with an air rifle, but before you start thinking about anything serious, you have to make the grade. By serious, I mean the hunting of animals, which a lot of you will want to try. Believe me when I tell you, it takes a high level of marksmanship to do this job properly. Because, like driving a car or flying a plane, these things aren't as instinctive as we might like to believe. The rifles will do it. It's you that needs the training. Perhaps I should have called this video section, "What aren't you going to do with your rifle?" Because until you have absorbed and outperformed all the information I'm going to give you, you shouldn't even think about getting serious. So, the homework's done and you're ready to buy. But buy what? Just a rifle? What about a telescopic sight? What about a gun bag? How are you going to choose your pellets? And is there anything else before bankruptcy beckons? Don't worry. We're going to deal with it all in the next section. There is a definite line between the accessory and the essential. Essential items like a cleaning kit, gun bag and pellets should be given immediate consideration, while accessories like rifle sling, silencer and telescopic sight can be added in the fullness of time. Some people will tell you that a telescopic sight is well and truly on the essential list, but I'm of a different opinion. You see, I don't think you should run before you can walk, and an understanding of basic dynamics comes before the delights of optical wizardry. So, let's get on to the essentials. Right, let's look at a quality gun bag. It makes sense, does it not, to protect that which you've just paid a lot of money for. A decent gun bag will do that for you. You've got a sturdy zip, plenty of padding. It'll keep your rifle happy and you on the right side of the law. Now, as far as the law goes, you are required to keep your rifle in a secure case whenever you're in a public place, and that includes going to and from the gun shop. But don't worry about points of law. Get yourself a decent gun case anyway. You can cheapen it up if you want. And get yourself one of these. Now that'll keep the policeman happy, but it won't do the same for the rifle. There's no padding, the strap's flimsy, no protection whatsoever. Look, don't let me labour the point. Get yourself a good one. Pellets are strange creatures. They cost very little to buy, yet on their head sits the last word in success or failure. You see, it doesn't matter how good you are or how good your equipment is. If you don't use perfect pellets, you'll never get the most from your sport. And perfect pellets don't exist either, which makes things a bit tedious. But for our purposes, we can bend perfect to suit us. It's more to do with compatibility, actually. You have to have compatible pellets, and different barrels seem to like different pellets for different reasons. Now it's up to you to find out. What you need again is knowledge. To get this, go to the magazine again. Get in touch with an airgun club and ask the membership what sort of problems they've had and how they solved them. I will assume at this point that there are some of you who can't write, chronically shy, and don't have a club within 50 miles of you. What are you going to do? For a start, don't buy pellets because they've got big pointy heads and a Star Wars design on the tin. Choose instead a quality dome-headed type of pellet that appears in the magazines quite frequently in the gun test reports. If the writers are using them to test the weapons, it usually means they're of high quality, and the difference between the price of high quality and inferior pellets is minimal. Don't skimp at this stage. You see, the pellets are the means by which your efforts are translated into visible results. All you really need is a quality pellet that suits the barrel, and one you can predict the flight path of in later time. I'll deal with flight path prediction further on in the video. For now, just realise the need for quality ammunition and the need to take a little time before choosing it. A cleaning kit is an absolute essential. Anyone who puts a rifle away without cleaning it is just asking for trouble. Sweaty palms put a layer of corrosive chemicals on everything they touch. Now when you use the gun outdoors, you've got the added dangers of grit, dust, rain and scratches to contend with. These things can become permanent damage in a few hours, yet they can be prevented in a couple of minutes. All you need is a soft cloth to wipe away the worst of the grit and dirt, and water. Next, you follow up with a cloth that's been impregnated by a decent quality gun oil. You can either buy one or you can make your own. I don't think I have to tell you how to make an oily rag, do I? What you have to remember is to use it regularly. Now, I've stressed the need for you to leave a thin film of oil over your rifle. What this doesn't mean is half a pint of this stuff squirted inside your gun. What will happen then is that you'll clog up the action initially, but as the oil thins out, it will become ignited by the internal heat and compression going on inside your gun. This we call dieseling. Now, repeated dieseling will destroy any air gun. If you're a complete and utter moron, you'll think it's great to have a rifle that goes off with a kick like a mule and a great plume of blue smoke. You'll soon be brought back down to earth though. When the gun comes to bits, it can shake the stock bolts loose, it can break the mainspring, it can burn the piston heads. In short, don't squirt oil inside the air gun or you'll ruin it. Another no-no is the cleaning of the rifling. Until you really know what you're doing, leave the inside of the barrel alone. Spring piston guns tend to squirt tiny particles of oil up inside the bore every time they're fired. This forms a protective coating and prevents rust. So, apart from major contamination or a blockage, spare the rod and don't ruin the barrel. The main problem with cleaning the barrel is the damage it can cause. All decent muzzles are crowned, which means they've been finished square and true without damaging the rifling. If you start ramming metal tipped rods up and down there, you're going to ruin it. There is a proper way to do it, but for now, just leave things as they are. Cleaning and maintenance tips will appear throughout this video, so you'll have to watch all of it. For now, just remember this simple sentence. Keep the gun clean, properly lubricated, and don't fix it when it isn't broke. Now, let's study some of the airgun systems you may wish to buy. There are four main airgun systems for the beginner to consider. These are spring piston, pre-charged, pump up and gas ram. All work. Each has its pros and cons. It's up to you to select the system which best fits your needs. This system relies on a spring-powered piston to compress sufficient air to force a pellet up the barrel. My crude explanation does little to inform you of the tremendous potential of the spring-powered system. Here, the animation will show a simplified view of what goes on inside a spring piston air rifle. Notice how, as the barrel is brought down, pressure is applied to the mainspring via a cocking link, which sits inside a slot in the piston body. The piston is now held by the trigger sear when the mainspring is fully compressed. The pellet is loaded and the barrel returned and held firmly by the breech lock. Side and underlever guns use an identical cocking principle, without using the barrel as a lever. Watch carefully as the trigger mechanism releases the piston to compress the air in front of it, so forcing the pellet up the barrel. Notice how the pellet begins to move during the recoil phase of the firing sequence. Watch it again. Remember, you still have control of the rifle at this point, and any movement from you will affect the destination of the pellet, which is why a stable shooting position is so important. A decent spring gun can produce half-inch clusters of pellets on a target 50 yards downrange. I've done it dozens of times. It only took me a couple of decades to find out how. Just think, you'll be at least 15 years up on me because of this video. Take the message in and avoid all the mistakes that I made. There are 3 methods of cocking, which are largely self-explanatory. They have their merits and drawbacks, although the common thread which runs through all aspects of gun handling is careful use. Barrels and levers under tension from a powerful mainspring make very serviceable guillotines when slammed around by uncaring hands. Your piano playing will take on a decidedly hampered form without the required amount of digits. The guns are safe, treat them with respect, and it will be returned. The advantages of spring power are considerable. For a start, it has been used for decades. Consequently, its development has had time to take place. Spring rifles are refreshingly simple in their construction, and they allow some basic maintenance to be carried out. Now remember, I said basic. This means the changing of a mainspring, maybe a piston head, or replacing a worn linkage. I am constantly amazed at some of the modifications carried out on decent guns by amateur gunsmiths, usually in search of yet more power. If you intend to buy a spring piston airgun, and they really are worth considering, don't allow some idiot with a Taiwanese monkey wrench to convince you that he has found the secret of air rifle success. If you really wish to upgrade your rifle rather than buy another one, there are specialist tuning companies that have real knowledge, and they will be able to carry the work out for you. Tuning is a science in itself, and I'll cover that in a later section.